Alright, is it starting? It looks like it should be. And yet, Twitch isn't updating. Hmm, this is interesting. Well, let me see. So OBS isn't dropping any frames. It says we've been broadcasting for 40 seconds. Do I need to reload? Well, I'm refreshing the page. Let's see if that starts the stream. Okay, good. OBS? Okay, just checking. I didn't want to, stream for an hour and then realize that my recording software was busted again, because that seems to happen too frequently. So, hello everyone, this is Chris Ingerson. It is February 4th. I hate February. It's an annoying month to say. And this is the February 4th TextQuest Dev... February 4th TextQuest Dev Stream. I can't say a sentence with the word in there. Don't know why I have so much trouble with that with this month. Anyway, so it's Thursday. We're going to be doing programming again. Specifically, we're going to be focusing on the save system. Still having a little bit of issues in there. If you tuned in on Tuesday, or you saw the Tuesday dev stream, you'll notice that I had a lot of trouble whenever I was starting to play a level. I get a bunch of null reference errors because of the way that the save system was set up. So it's not completely finished getting ported, mostly because there's a lot of stuff in there, and there's only one of me, and only so many hours in a day. So where we're at currently, just to sort of bring you up to speed, if you don't know, it'll actually be easier to just do this. Let's go to Show and Explore. We're going to go to TextQuest, the base build, saves. So currently, right, I forgot. We'll just edit with Notepad. Currently, we have encryption working. So this is our autosave file. You can see that it's just a bunch of gibberish, basically. And that is because save files get encrypted now whenever they're saved out. That way you can't come in and manually adjust things. So we got the encryption and decryption parts working. The only parts that are left is making sure that our actual system can properly make use of JSON formats. And actually, this is something that I've been thinking about. Let me go to... I should have closed all of these things before I actually open it, because we're only interested in session today. All right, get rid of this stuff. Get rid of this stuff. Okay, session and session utility. That's basically all we need. So currently, the way session works is I have a bunch of JSON objects, and JSON is just a basic data formatting, but I don't think that it's a good way to actually store data locally. It's great to store it, in a save file and then parse it back in because it's really easy to do that. But I feel like when we're doing it locally, it doesn't make sense for me to dig through all of this JSON just to get to specific things. Because the thing about JSON is that it can be nested forever. So you can have just a bunch of nested things inside of a single JSON object, and that makes it very tedious and complicated to get that stuff out because you have to know the exact pathing and all this extra stuff. So what I'm thinking I'm going to do is instead of having these save, temp, and auto JSON, which we'll still probably at the end of the day have, how do I want to do this? I was thinking of having basically a system where these remain JSON objects, but the only thing that really matters out of all of this is the auto JSON. And that's because between the three of these, you can think of this as save JSON as the information in the save file. Temp JSON is the information that gets parsed out at the beginning of a level. And then auto JSON is everything that's happened from the beginning of the level to the current point in the game. So once you transition between levels, it'll commit an autosave, which turns auto JSON into temp JSON, which actually converts that into save JSON. So we might even be able to get rid of this whole temp JSON thing, because I don't need both of these. Back when I first started the session, information that actually might have been necessary. likely because save JSON, it wasn't JSON back then, it was XML. It was probably loading, it was probably parsing things from an XML file here, if I remember correctly, and then it was storing them here, and basically auto would be reset to whatever temp was. But I feel like we don't have to worry about that because save JSON is never, or save JSON and temp JSON are never going to be the same anyway. And basically all I was doing is just mixing these things down, ultimately down to save JSON. So it doesn't really matter. I think we can get rid of one of these entirely. And maybe possibly use dictionaries to store different parameters locally during the auto section. We'll see what we come up with, just because it's really nasty to try and retrieve data right now. So we might end up doing something like this: private static dictionary string. This would be our session values, and then we would have. See, it makes it. Problem is that makes it really, really tough to do any sort of formatting. Because, let me go ahead and go to session utility. So when I started porting everything over to JSON, I set up this sort of per level template. So there would be a section of the JSON file that's reserved for session variables. So stuff like your inventory, the level that you're in, information on the player, stuff like that. And then I was going to have an array of different JSON blobs that were just going to represent the data inside each level. But it doesn't necessarily really make sense to have JSON data for a level specifically, at least not in regards to, say, bools, numbers, and strings. It does make sense for things like item coordinates and containers, though. Because item coordinates and containers cannot be shared across different scenes. But it's entirely possible that one bool value in a JSON or in a specific level might affect another value in a different level entirely. And I would prefer not to have to dig through a bunch of JSON objects just to get to a different level's JSON section. So what I am thinking is basically getting rid of bools, numbers, and strings in this default level JSON and moving them to their own section, basically. So not in the session section, not in the levels section, their own thing. Now, when I do that, I need to make sure that things aren't just going to go haywire, basically. And we're probably going to end up having a bunch of errors that we have to sort of deal with. So, man, how do I want to even do this? I probably want to have a default file format, which I thought I did, but it doesn't look like I do, actually. Interesting. So, this is not going to be great. It might be good, actually, to just do a test script to show you what I'm thinking it's going to look like at the end of the day. Maybe that would take too much time, though. So, let's go ahead and just get started on our to-do list for tonight. I'm going to move bool, int, and string save sections to be out of the level sections and be in their own bool section, int section, and string section, or string section, so that it's easier for different levels to reference the same variables. All right, so let's go back here. Let's go to session. Get int, get bool, add inventory item, add coroutine, blah blah blah. So we're going to want to go to save, which is down here. And actually, when I started porting over to JSON, I already cut out a bunch of stuff, just because I had a lot of redundant data in here. So I think I've already halved the size of my session file, line-wise, and hopefully we're going to be able to get rid of even more of that in the future. So let's see. We have save session. All right. So we're going to need levels, which is treated as a JSON object. That's why. Originally, I was going to make levels a array of objects, but it actually has to be an object containing objects because I need to identify each level by its level ID. So I can't just make them an array because then I wouldn't know which object or which level I'm loading. Anyway, so we're going to move JSON object bools equals new JSON object numbers equals new JSON object strings equals new JSON object. And honestly, I don't think I use strings very often, but we'll keep it in there just in case. So, all right, and here's all the old XML code that I just commented out. At the end, we'll have JSON.add bools, except it's going to have to do session element. Yep. Session utility dot element bools. JSON.add session utility dot, let's see, element. Do I have numbers? I don't. I have element ints. We'll just call it element ints for now. Numbers. JSON.add session utility dot element strings, which of course has to have an underscore because it's just fashion forward like that. Strings. All right. So now when we're saving, we'll at least have those sessions or those sections in our file. Let's see. So I want to write encrypted file. I think for the time being, I'm also going to do this file manager. Oh, not file explorer button. Manager dot write file. JSON to formatted string path. So I'm not going to write an encrypted file for now. I'm going to comment that out. Actually, I can go ahead and get rid of that. That way I'll be able to open the file up after we've saved, and I'll be able to look at it to make sure it's formatting properly. Now, before we can go any further, we're going to need to be able to add and remove from bools and other values. So let's go ahead and do private static. I'm just going to copy this actually, basically. Copy and paste this 4 times. I think. Call this bool values, number values, string values. It's going to be, isn't that interesting? We'll do floats for sheer laziness, and then if it needs to be an int, I can cast it to an int later. But floats will give us more precision. Bool. All right. So we'll have this dictionary, or these dictionaries basically be what we pull data from and add to. And then when we're done, it's as simple as adding these values into a JSON object, which is very easy, and saving that out. And loading it in is basically the exact same way, just in reverse. So, with that, I don't think we need anything extra necessarily. So we're going to go on to a fun thing. We're going to take a hammer to our session, basically. And we're going to start by getting rid of auto.json, because I don't need that anymore. Save JSON. There will never be a third sort of state of save state. There's always going to be stuff that's on the save file, and then if we restart the level because you died or something, you have to go back to your previous save anyway. So you can just reload this exact information. You don't need to have a temporary storage for it, which maybe that's what this was doing. That's why I call it temp.json. But we'll keep this as save.json. We'll keep this as temp.json so that we know that this is temporary stuff, and once you save, it becomes save.json. That's all it is. So temp.json is always going to have more information than save.json because it's just save.json plus whatever else we need to do, whatever else we've done since the previous save. So let's see. Get session string, get session bool, get Right. This is all session section stuff right here. Don't need to worry about that. Probably don't even need to have an ID anymore. I think I can get rid of that. Difficulty's all fine. Let's get rid of auto.json equals equals new JSON object. Nice. So clear temp. Auto JSON equals, let's see, load inventory. Don't even need that. We just get rid of clear auto. So we're going to turn basically everywhere we're referencing auto JSON into temp JSON, which is admittedly going to be in a lot of places. A lot of places. And then we'll come back later and actually start parsing through anyway, because we're not going to be even using the JSON stuff for a lot of that. Let's get rid of that. Get rid of save auto. All right. So if we come up here to the top, let's see. So get session string, we're going to say instead of temp JSON, we are going to say return, what was it? Session values, ID. Right. Okay. Say if it exists, session values ID. Otherwise, session values ID is equal to default value. So basically what we're going to say there is we're going to look at our session values, which is just a dictionary of strings and strings. We're going to say, does the session value with this key ID exist? If it does not, I should say does not equals null, does not equal null, then return session values of ID, and if it does, go ahead and set the ID value to be the default value and then return it. So, same thing down here basically. All we're going to be doing is just say get session string ID default value to string then dot to int. Super easy. And now basically the only thing we'll ever have to change is this, because all of these functions will be pointing to get session string. So the same thing down here. Instead of to int, to float. Instead of to int, to bool. Oh dear. To bool. There we go. And we will also go ahead and say default value in here, because we can do that. No real reason for that, but we'll do it anyway. All right. So, set session string will be the exact same thing, basically. Just crap. Right. Gotta go back up here. And we can get rid of all of this. Instead of default value, just say value. It is as simple as that. Same thing down here. Set session string ID value dot to string. That's all this is going to be. So that makes it super easy. Hello, Garrett. I am doing well. A little tired, but that's just standard procedure these days. We are currently working on revamping the save system because I figured out a better way to format it than just trying to parse out JSON data all the time, which was pretty terrible. Yeah. How have you been? So we're getting everything from session from our dictionary. That should all be working. I'm gonna go ahead and go back to Unity just so I can see all the delicious errors that I'm sure we're gonna get, and then we'll probably not going to. Excuse me. We're probably not going to get rid of it yet because that's in a completely different script. So we're going to get through all of session before we try to move on to other stuff. So we have all of our sets and all of our gets for session. So we basically need to do something similar for, you know what? Would that work? Oh, it might. We could probably, no, it would ultimately be the same. I was gonna say we could probably make a generic function that takes a string or a dictionary and then gets or sets values in that, but we would have to write that many functions anyway, so we're just gonna go ahead and compound or rewrite everything. So let's just get all of this, copy it, and then we'll actually no, it's not gonna be that bad. So let's not copy it. Let's just go ahead and go to public static void get bool string ID bool default value equals false. Good to hear that you've been doing well. Yeah, I wonder if Twitch notifications did some change or they updated how they do things, because I don't get a lot of Twitch notifications either. I think you have to enable them manually now or something like that. So I don't know. Yeah, we're still using JSON for storage, but now instead of doing, so what we did start to do was have JSON be always be the storage. So even in real time data retrieval, we were storing in JSON. But instead, what I'm going to do is I'm going to save and load to and from JSON. And then when I bring it in, I'm going to convert it into dictionaries that I can then just look through. So I have like a bool dictionary, a int dictionary, a string dictionary, and the session dictionary. So it makes it a little bit easier for me to get around. I don't have to like dig through a bunch of JSON to get at what I want, at least in real time. Because it's perfectly fine to do that when you're saving, out or loading in, but it's tedious to do that all the time. So anyway. So let's have bool values ID not equal to null. This is going to be return. Not return, return. Bool values ID else bool values ID is equal to default value. Bam. Oh, what now? Since value of type bool is never equal to. Oh, okay. I guess we'll just do I guess that's true. We could just say bool values dot contains key ID. As simple as that, I suppose. Let's just save this. Ta-da. Memory cache? What do you mean? Public static void set bool string ID bool value bool values ID equals value. Nice and easy. Then we'll do this for our numbers. So public static, and we'll have to do it for ints and floats separately. Get int string ID int default value. Kind of. So I'm going to go ahead and say 0. Fine. Format for me. Whatever. Yeah, basically it's Yeah, it's basically parsing all of the loaded JSON into dictionaries so that I can retrieve it in a more convenient manner, as opposed to trying to reparse a JSON blob every time I need something. That doesn't really. Well, it's not really reparsing it. It's more like digging into an existing JSON object, which is a separate thing, sort of. But it's still cumbersome because then you have to like navigate through a bunch of JSON to get to it, and it's really awkward. So I just wanted to cut that out as much as possible. Um, so I'm just storing everything in dictionaries once it's parsed in, since that makes it easier for me to retrieve it. Number values contains key ID. Then we will return yes dot to int dot to int. Oh, no, I'm sorry. Ooh. That's interesting. Oh, and also that's going to be return. This is interesting. I've never done this before. I'm not sure where to stick it. I guess it's going to be dot to int here. Oh, that can't be right, though. Yeah. Ugh, gross. Then I suppose it would be this. I can wrap it. I think I can get away with that. Yep. Aha! I win. I've never run into that before. Huh. Where I'm trying to assign a dictionary value at the same time that I'm trying to return it, that I'm also trying to convert it to something. I suppose I could have just cast it, which is what I ultimately end up doing, just to int, but eh. Anyway, so public static void set int string id int value number values id equals value dot to string. Oh, I'm sorry, not to string, to float. And actually, as fun as this is, I'm just going to duplicate this. Say instead of get int, get float. I don't think I have any floats in particular, but it's probably good to look at it still. Float. Turn all floats. So I don't need to do any to int conversions here. And then all I have to do down here is I can just say set float id value dot to float. Oh, right, it's because I'm going to have two set floats. I'll get rid of the second ones later on. But it's fine for now. So return get float id default value dot to float. That's all that needs to be. Been doing performance increases or improvements on my game. Got draw calls down from approximately 500 to 150. That is a very, very large amount. That's a great amount of optimization. You should feel good. Yeah, that's one of the reasons I don't like to use dynamic lights as much as possible. Just because it's terrible. It doubles all of your draw calls for every light that touches a material, basically. It's really not great, and I really wish they had a better way of optimizing that, but there's no real way to do it. Anyway, I'm gonna go ahead and get rid of these guys because they're just duplicates. We don't even need them anymore. What, really? Oh, right, I gotta say to int down here. To int. Bam. There we go. Are you kidding me? Oh, that's curious. Give me a second. Go to definition. No, that's correct. Why is it mad at me? Get float returns a float, and I convert that to an int. Huh. Float does not contain a definition for to int. That's a bold-faced lie? That's super weird. And then if I get rid of it, what did I not like? Oh, I guess I didn't. Huh. Okay. Well, give me a second here. Float. Oh, int default value. Yeah, mobile is even harder to get things optimized for because you have like nothing to work with. Return f.toInt. Oh, actually, you know what? I want that to go backwards, don't I? You know what? That's why I had it, because I don't need to specify a thing. It's going to round it anyway. So, okay, that's good. So you only have one light now. Yeah, that's good. I'm trying to figure out how to get rid of the last one. You could always bake stuff. Have you tried doing light map baking at all? That tends to improve performance a lot. Mobile and Mac big cards suck. Yeah, it's getting better because Mac. I mean, just the march of time makes hardware better, and Mac is getting Metal, which is improving rendering performance on Macs, but it's still really. Oh, yeah, that sucks then. Um, yeah, if everything's moving, then it's probably not worth it to try and do baking. Because the most you could do is like bake and then have terrible light probes that you have to try and get to look right, which is not meant to happen. You cannot make light probes look nice. I'm just convinced that you can't. Anyway, let's see. Set session bool. Last ones should be public static string get string ID string default value equals that. And we'll go ahead and add the space because I know it's going to want to do it. Return string values dot contains key ID. If so, string values ID. Else string values ID equals default value. Yeah, it's supposed to be really, really nice. I have not been able to mess with it, but I've heard good things. Static void set string ID. Oh, I gotta go string ID. And then string value. String values ID equals value. Nice. I'm gonna play around with the realistic static environments that I'm doing in this game. Yeah. Yeah, so I took part in the Global Game Jam this past week, or this past weekend, and I got to do a lot of like realistic environment work and texturing, and working in Substance on like realistic environments is so satisfying. It's just everything is just nice and looks dirt, and like you can get dirty and dirt and different specularity. Or not, well, specularity is one thing I could do, but I didn't. But different roughness, not just like solid colors. And it's like this is so much fun to texture. And then I come back to TextQuest and I'm like, oh, it's also flat and I can't do anything because the aesthetic doesn't let me. It was so much fun. Sorry, that was a bit of a gush. I had a lot of fun doing textures. Um, all right, let's get rid of the get string, set string functions down here. And inventory, that's going to be an odd thing to do. I'll have to figure out a good way to do that. Yeah, well, I tested it out actually. I came back into TextQuest and started texturing again on this Tuesday, and I tried to do the same workflow to see if it would look right, and it actually looked really awkward and out of place. So I have to basically make things a lot more flat when I work with Substance inside or for TextQuest. In fact, I can't really do different sort of rough and metallic maps. I have to use just whole masks for those because if I try to use like the way Substance is supposed to do, which is multi-layered textures for your rough and metallic maps, so that things have some metallic natures and some roughness to them. If in TextQuest it has to be like just a single color across an entire area, which is kind of frustrating. And basically, the only way I can break up colors is with the normal map, not with the roughness or the metallic map, because it looks weird if it's the roughness or the metallic map. So it's a little disappointing, but it still looks good. I mean, if we look at okay, we can't really look at it because I'm in the wrong scene. But if you look at it inside of TextQuest, it doesn't look bad. It's stylized enough that things work still, but it just kind of sucks. Anyway, so we have our basic sections done. We still need to do inventory. And for inventory, oh boy. How are we gonna do this? This is kind of going back to what I was doing before. I don't know if it feels bad. It feels like I'm regressing a little bit. But I had private static dictionary string. I want to say there's like inventory item, I think. Inventory values equals new dictionary. So I go to inventory item. Yeah. I just don't want to do this. So for inventory items, I might keep those as JSON. Same with the containers and the crap, containers and what else? I had something else in there. Containers and chords, item coordinates. Those can all be JSON because they're complex data anyway. So I might as well just store them as JSON. So for this, actually, I don't need to worry about that. And instead, I can just grab that from temp JSON, I think. Not great, but it'll work. Yeah, flat. I don't know. I feel like the flat, like low poly thing is kind of played out. Like with just vertex coloring. I feel like that's just been done to death now. So it's really, really hard to get excited about that aesthetic. I really do prefer a lot of texture information in my stuff. Just because I feel like textures add, well, texture. So doing solid colors, just you lose a lot of sort of the soul of an object, I suppose, would be the terrible artsy way of saying it. But um, yeah, but at least he has great. At least William has gradient shading, like you say, um, and it's dynamic. When it's more static in that sort of low poly 3D stuff, it becomes a little more tedious, I feel. Um, so it's kind of I don't know. It's a personal opinion, obviously. I mean, I assume other people have it. Like you said, yeah, William has it. Um, but I don't know. Some people like it, some people don't, and I just happen to be on the side that doesn't. So let's see. What else do I need to do here? Trying to figure out a good way to do items. Right. So inventory. So inventory is its own thing, and we might make that just a JSON array actually. So private static JSON array inventory values equals new JSON array, and levels. Level actually I think will be a different thing. This is going to be private static JSON array container values. No, actually it's going to be this. Dictionary string JSON object container values equals new. So we're going to move that above inventory values in a second. And then the last thing we need is item coordinates, which is going to be private static dictionary. Ooh. It's going to be another array, actually. So JSON array item coord values equals new JSON array. So let's move this up because I like having all of my same types with the other types matching them. Just a little weird. So basically we want a dictionary of JSON objects, which is our container values, and container values and item coordinates are going to be set per level, while inventory values is going to be part of our I hate doing this, but I'm going to have to do it just so that it makes a little more sense broken up. So per level, per session, if that makes sense. So this stuff basically gets generated whenever you go into a level, and it's going to get reset whenever you go to a different level, because you'll have containers in one level that aren't going to exist in another level, so it doesn't make sense to have their values in here. Same thing with item coordinates, because obviously if I drop an item in the castle, it doesn't make sense for that item to be listed in the sewer, since they're two separate areas. So let's see. I'm just going to call this save info so I comment a little bit better, because it was hell coming back through here and looking at things again. So we have set string, get level info, blah 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 blah. Okay. Whew. So I think the get level info stuff is all fine. Set level info. I need to test this still. I have a feeling that when I'm setting this info through this method, it's not actually setting the info on the original data. It's setting it on like a duplicate of the data, so it's not actually changing anything. I want to test that a little bit more. But for the time being, we get our item array. That's all fine. Found items. We loop through our item array. If oh, that's get inventory. Ew, really? That's fine. Oh, okay. I know why. I understand why. Right. We add an inventory item. Right. So that all should sort of be working. Again, we have to test it to see if it's returning duplicates or if it's returning the actual original information. Remove inventory item, same thing. Add item coordinate. I am not. Okay. Does this ever get called? session. What about you? Find all references. Okay, so I don't really need this. Instead, so I can get rid of this whole function. And instead, I can just pass the existing level and the position, rotation, and scale of the item itself. No, that's probably why I have an item coordinate, actually. Because that data isn't contained by the item, it's contained by the item's transform. So it might make sense for this to have a separate thing for it. Okay, then I'll go ahead and keep this in here for now. Add item coordinate, takes an item coordinate, we get all this crap. And for that, oh boy, we're just going to go ahead and say item coord values dot add coord dot to JSON. So we can get rid of this entirely. Let's see. This is actually going to be the same thing here. No, because inventory is inventory is its own thing. I was right. Okay. So we don't need this whole item array thing. We can just say get rid of this, and we can say inventory values dot object values. Simple as that. Add inventory item. We'll say inventory values equals, oh, nope, sorry, dot add item dot to string, or no, to JSON. There we go. And we'll say for int I equals 0, I is less than amount, I plus plus. We'll go ahead and add that. Okay. Oh. That's what I was doing. That's really weird. Okay. Then all I need to say is just move this down here. Then I can copy this, get rid of it, bam. Simple as that. And I can just say item JSON. No, in this case, it's item info. Because that's just what I decided to arbitrarily name things. Remove inventory item is going to be, again, remove, inventory values. Ooh, this is going to be tough. Right. Do I want to perhaps keep it an array of items instead of an array of JSON? Kind of makes sense, actually. Yeah, no, that makes more sense, I think. So let's go up here. If that's the case, it's not going to be a JSON array, and instead it's going to be a list. Okay. So let's just call it list item, inventory values equals new, new list item. Right. So to get an inventory item, for each item. See, and I don't think I want to return JSON objects anymore. I want to return items. So item. So have a list item, found items equals new list item in inventory values if item dot item ID dot toString equals ID found items dot add item. Go ahead and do two lower. And dot two lower. Just so that I can keep everything consistent. Don't have to worry about it. And found items dot count greater than 0. Just say at 0. Bam. Simple as that. Add inventory item. Inventory values dot add item. And that's problematic. So I need to find a way to do amounts differently, I think. I don't really have a situation where you get multiple items all at once. So maybe I can just get away with not having that. Let me see if I ever call this. Find all references. I never do. So I'm just going to go ahead and get rid of this. Because I wanted to have the ability to say, like, you can get X amount of things, but I want to keep it because it's a solid idea. I just can't really. I don't have a good way of handling it. But you know what? I guess I wouldn't have to. Now that I think about it, I could just add the same item 3 times. And no, that wouldn't really work. Add items list. Well, no, I'm not worried about that. It's a matter of saying, like, let's say I interact with a switch, like I press a button, and then for pressing that button, I get 3 apples. Those need to be 3 individual apples that were added, which means they have to be 3 completely different item objects. And I don't know if I want to. Basically, I could remove the amount here and say that you can only ever add 1 inventory item at a time, and then basically on the requesters and saying they want to add an inventory item, they would have to go through a loop on their end. Which might be the better way to go, because that would give me more control on the individual item level. So I think I'm going to do that then. Yeah, well, and again, the problem is that it's not just a count. Because if it was just a count, I wouldn't really worry about it. And that's what it used to do. It was just a number that was sort of separate and kept track of. But I want to have... But since the actual inventory in-game has literal items in a list, that means if I have 3 apples, they're 3 separate apples. When it does the tally, it has a number next to them, of course, but they're 3 distinct apples. They're not the same apple 3 times, if that makes sense. But and the reason they have to be distinct is because I can do this. I can do item.toJSON. And that will basically dump all of the relevant information from that item into a JSON blob. So let's say I have 3 lanterns. One of those is equipped and is lit. Only one of the lanterns needs to be equipped and lit. But if it's all the same object, just duplicated 3 times, then I have 3 lanterns that are all separate and all of them think that they should be lit and equipped, but only one of them should be. So, and again, that's a really that's an example of me overthinking things because you can never get more than one lantern. But the possibility of it existing, and maybe the possibility of later on down the line, I want to do something like that. I want to try to control it, or at least allow it to happen. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to get rid of this, and this amount is not going to factor in. And instead, I'm just going to say, if you want to add multiple items, then on the end that's calling add inventory item, it's going to have its own for loop. It's going to get its own items and then add those individually. So I think that's what's going to end up happening, I guess. But yeah, the main thing I want to avoid is I don't want to have like a string field that gets filled in, because I hate using strings. I try to avoid them as much as possible, just because if you use strings, it gets so messy trying to keep track of that stuff because their ID could literally be anything. Um, so it's I feel like it's a little bit better to have individual items that get added because again, then I can just dump their data into a JSON blob, and then I can load that JSON blob back into an item when I load the level again. Um, so it's basically just a nice, convenient, like wholesale reload all of this information in one line of code, without having to like have this really awkward setup of these different items with different parameters and whatnot because they don't care. They're just containers basically or wrappers for a data class. Um, anyway, let's see. Let's go to inventory values dot remove item, and I should probably do it if inventory values dot contains item. We'll go ahead and remove it. Add item coordinate. We've gone over that. That stuff should be fine. Because I don't think I keep a positioning of it. Well, I probably should, but meh. All right. We have an item coordinate. Add item coordinate. All that stuff seems to work. Check what item coordinate's doing. It's just a wrapper. Okay. In that case, not crazy about this. See, and that was the other problem. Damn it. That was the other problem I was having with item coordinates is that they need to have a reference to the JSON that their item is populated with, because if they don't, then it just gets sloppy and... Okay. Because I could see you adjusting parameters on the object, then dropping it, then leaving the scene, then coming back, then you gotta reload that information. And it's just, it's a never-ending battle. Let's go to definition. And then... Right. I'm going to go ahead and also do this public item and from JSON or to JSON actually will give me JSON.add session utility cord item dot to JSON to formatted. No, I don't need that. I just say to JSON, can't I? Alright. I think that might work. Crap. Got a definition. Gotta change this. Item ID. Chord. Item ID. Public const string chord item equals item. Make this say item ID. Come back here. Get rid of the ID part. Okay, I think that should work. Now, I don't have a good way of assigning this item, so right. Probably because that should just be freaking JSON. Object. New. And I'm going to rename this to item info. This dot item info equals JSON dot get string value. Or actually, get object session utility dot chord item. There we go. You had an inventory type class. Type IDs were strings, mainly for debugging. Yeah, had a lot of list properties. Yeah. Yeah, no, I understand using string IDs, and it works. It's just that I have this personal aversion to it, because it can get out of hand really easy. Arshig, hello, welcome to the TextQuest Dev stream. So the game is a first-person text-based adventure where everything in the world is made of text. And I would show you it, but it is currently broken, and we are refactoring our save system, which is breaking our game. So, if you are curious, you can actually take a look at the website and download a demo. So sorry I can't show you right now, just because it's, again, the save system's kind of screwing things up, so that's what we're focusing on tonight. Let's see, you have an inventory container class that holds stuff. Yeah, and that's kind of what I have too. But see, I wanted to have you be able to drop stuff because I have a weight system, so you have to, sort of juggle things. And if you have too much stuff, you can just drop it where you stand and then go somewhere and then come back later and get it. I didn't want to pull a Resident Evil where you can't drop stuff and you get stuck and have to backtrack for 5 hours to actually put stuff in a chest. So a chair is, in fact, yes, made of the word chair. I guess I could actually show you, even though I'm going to get errors, I could probably at least show you a level. So let's go to the canyon, which is the level I'm currently texturing. So you can see that everything is actually made up of the word that represents it. So torch has torch written on it, collar, pit, those are all terms for the individual components of a torch. River is the word river. Canyon is the word canyon. Wood planks are the word plank. And waterfall is the word waterfall. Stuff like that. Oh, and I gotta fix that texture later too. I was in here texturing before the stream and I didn't get all the way finished. But yeah, that's the basic rundown of it. Aesthetically, anyway. Mechanically, it's a text-based adventure, so you actually interact with objects, pick them up and down, and try various strategies to move forward in the game. So you could drop to a ground inventory that knows position, and saving the landing scene just does a container too. Oh yeah, well the splash, it's probably gonna break though. I could probably actually show the particle system itself without having to play the game though. So even particle effects are also are just words. So splashing is just the word splash, which is a fun thing. I don't know why, but it's always fun to use just particles that are the actual literal words. And they turn out pretty well, actually. Might need to make these unlit, just because they're a little dark, but they look pretty nice, actually, when you're playing, so... anyway. So that's the aesthetic for the game. There is a typing element. Because of these errors, I cannot show it to you right now. But yes, you do actually. I guess I could. No, my menu system would break the moment I tried to do anything. Um, so I can't show it to you right now. Although maybe I do have a build. Um, yeah, if you're curious, actually, there is a demo on the website. And that'll like give you a good rundown on all of the mechanics, except for combat because it's a little old. But there is a typing element, so you actually interact with objects. So you have to say like pick up apple, eat apple, throw apple into river, or whatever else you can think of. So it is a actual text based adventure. It's not just like a wandering around sort of modern day adventure style game. It's a little bit more reminiscent of stuff like Zork or King's Quest. Anyway, so let's go back here. We have our item coordinate, which is now going to store JSON, or a JSON blob. Let's see. Cord dot item info equals item dot crud. I got this. JSON object item info item dot to JSON. Ta-da. Cool. Cord dot item info equals item info. Did you ever see that Minecraft April Fool's Day patch? Oh, right, the sound effects thing. Which I also need to do as an April Fool's Day joke. It makes me sad that they did that, actually, because I had that idea before I heard about it, and then they said, oh, Minecraft did that. I'm like, damn it! Now it's going to be hard for me to actually do it, because it'll just be accused of copying it. Who's on the dev team? You are listening to him. The entirety of the dev team is just me. So I'm doing all the modeling, the texturing, the programming, the design, the sound design, not the composition for the music, because I cannot compose music to save my life. But basically everything except for musical composition is being done by me. Not basically, that is factually what it is. Everything but the musical composition is being done by me. And that's why it's taken 2.5 years so far. Add item coordinate. It's fun. It definitely keeps me, awake into the hours of the morning, because this is not my actual job. I have jobs that pay the bills, and then I have to come home and do graduate school work, and then I get to do this once all of that stuff is taken care of. So, but it's fun. I enjoy working on it. Oh, I always forget to ask this of new people. Did you just like randomly come across the stream? I assume, just looking through game dev on Twitch and saw this. Just because I like to try and get a feeling for how people came to the stream. So let's see. We have remove item coordinate. Cord dot item info equals item dot to JSON. That's not gonna work. Crap. Crap. Great. It's not unique enough is the problem. That's brutal. I might just have to have a freaking dummy string ID. Just because I need a unique ID for this. No good way to do it. But I don't know a good way to generate a random ID that's not already in use. Um, degree, media production. There's a new media school at the college that I attended as an undergraduate, and I decided to come here as a graduate student because they offered to pay for everything. So I'm like, yeah, I'll get a master's degree if you're all paying. Um, so I'm getting a master's degree in media production, specifically video game production, and it is frustrating. Let me tell you. Not the video game production part. That part's cool. The thesis work is frustrating. Um, oh wow, you are dedicated. Well, you are dedicated to be typing on a PS4. Um, Still, cool. I don't know if I've had someone actually watch on a PS4 before, so that's interesting. Huh, good to know. Well, I'm glad that you came by. It's always good to have new people on the stream. So, I guess I could get away with having. Yeah, it'll. I'm working on it right now to retexture everything. So right now, some of this stuff's using older textures. Um, like this is a newer texture, but it's done with an old UV map, so it looks bad. Same with this stuff. But I'm trying to get sort of much nicer cracks and normal maps and stuff to break things up. So the game actually looks a lot better than when I first started it. Um, Servers aren't that good. I could probably try to change my settings for my stream output. Because I should have lowered the bit rate. Um, huh. Yeah, I'm still trying to figure out a good like streaming setup because what I have works, but I've noticed that depending on where you are in the world and what you're running it on, it might have some bad buffering. So I'm trying to find a good balance of high quality versus accessibility for everyone. And I just don't know what all the requirements are for that, like the parameters you need to set. But I'm slowly adjusting those as I get told what's good and what I find out is good quality settings. So I apologize if you're having trouble. Um, Even if it's Twitch, I always feel bad because it is I'm the one streaming. So even if it's Twitch's fault, like if your house caught on fire because of Twitch somehow, I would still be like, oh, but it was my stream, so I feel bad. Um, just because I'm a glutton for punishment apparently. Um, so let's go to item coordinate, and I guess I don't like doing this, but could have a public string. That's not going to make sense. It has to be a randomly generated one. That doesn't. How am I going to do this? So I need a way of identifying individual items that could have the exact same item ID and be dropped in the same level. So you could have two apples that you dropped in different spots on the map. Um, this is so trivial because there's almost never a chance that I can think of that you would have items that complex but have multiples of them. I'm just overthinking it. But if I can get it to work, it's better for it. Oh, well, thank you for following. I guess that's another thing I need to do. I need to get those fancy, like, plugins that basically go bang, bang, bang. You've been followed by X. I don't have any of those. I also don't even have a webcam, as you can see. Yeah, that's what the item ID is for. But you can have, like I said, apples. You could have 3 apples because apples wouldn't necessarily be a unique item. It's not like your sword or the lantern. There's only one of those. But obviously, if you have, for example, apples, you could have 9 apples at the same time. I'm not gonna make 9 unique Apple IDs because that doesn't make sense. So, gotta find a good way to do this. Boy, not great. Um, I honestly don't know. The only thing I could think is maybe have a parameter in items that gets generated when it goes to JSON and from JSON. It's just, bool is unique. But I mean, like, what a bool isn't enough. Because let's say I have 3 apples and I drop them in 3 different places in the same level. When that level loads, it needs to adjust the parameters and spawn 4 or 3 apples in the correct spots, and they need to be the correct apples in the correct spots. Um, so I can't make it a bool. It has to be something um, more flexible than that. And I guess a string is the only thing I can think of. So I think what I'm going to do actually is this. So I'm going to go to session. I'm going to go to item.toJSON. Go to definition, and I'm going to add something that is purely for let's see, interactive object. Right. Let's go to that's the interactive object. Ah, dang it. Give me a second here. We go to item, go to definition. Yeah, so serialized transform could be interesting. Basically what I'm going to do is say whenever I convert an item into JSON right here, and items are the only ones that should need this, fortunately, because you'll never have the same container ID, and you'll never have the same like base object ID because base objects don't even have IDs. So I will have a sort of hidden string. Let's go ahead and go up here and have private string unique ID. It's going to be that. And then, this is going to be super fun. One, I'm going to have public string unique ID. And just say get return unique ID. If I could spell unique. But I cannot. Hello, 18 Mark Wick. I am doing well. How have you been? Currently working on the save system for TextQuest. And then we're going to say this dot unique ID equals object info get string dot not parentheses dot get string value that, and I can pass a default parameter, can't I? Yes. It's going to be null. And then down here, we're going to say, this dot unique ID equals empty string. That's fine. Really, from JSON. Oh man, I got to fix that. So that was an interesting oversight on my part. Public override JSON object, or to JSON object. Base.json, JSON object, JSON equals base.json, return JSON, and we're going to add our stuff in between there. So let's see. Maybe have items off screen become files that store location and item types. That's sort of what I'm doing. So I have an inventory that keeps track of all of these items, and once you drop an item, say into the world, then it's physically there in the world. And then if you leave the world, that object has to get recycled, but then it'll have a data reference to that item itself that will then get parsed in and positioned properly. But I need a way to basically juggle multiple objects. So in theory, I want to have 50 apples that are all individual apples. that could be placed in a scene and be accurately placed for where the original version of the apple was dropped. So that's what I'm trying to do right here. And it's actually not going to be that bad. I think I'm just going to have this unique ID basically be something that can be referenced. And it'll probably be generated by the item ID mixed with... I don't want to do a random number because that's not... it's not safe enough because I always worry, like, even if it's a 1 in a million chance that you get the same ID on the same item, it's possible. So I need a better way to do it. Been doing good, laying in bed, having coded. Yeah, I know that feeling. Anyway, so for this, we're going to say JSON.add interactive object utility dot item ID, which of course has to have this freaking underscore, and then let's see, item ID dot toString. Why not have them disappear on restart? Yeah, the problem with increment GUI IDs was what might work. I think that was going to be my ultimate idea. I think incremented ends could be too dangerous because if you're loading this information in, like let's say you save this out, it has an incremental ID of like 3, and then when you load it back in, let's say that you've gone to a different level, that incremental value gets reset to be 0 basically, unless I have like this complicated keeping track. God, it's spiraling out. Why not have them disappear on restart? So well, the problem is that it's too dangerous to have things just disappear. Because let's say you drop your lantern, then leave the area. If that lantern doesn't get spawned back in properly, then you can't win the game. Like you can't progress. So I can't just get rid of all items. I can get rid of some items, and in fact, I think that's what I do. If an item is just like a common consumable item, when you drop it, if you leave, it's gone. And that's because you can always get more of those. At least that's the idea. But yeah. Well, but the problem is that static counters get reset. So I have to have something that gets saved out. To a save file that when I load it back in gets parsed back in, and then I could like actually use those things. Okay. I'm essentially trying to bulletproof a thing that's never going to get shot at, basically, but can't drop lantern. That would work, but I prefer to let people. It's like do you remember the new Thief game? When they announced it, they're like, you can do all this stuff, and then, by the way, you can't jump. And people were just like, why can't I jump? That's really, really stupid. And I mean, the explanation was, you're never going to jump around like an idiot, because you're a master thief. But it's taking away, like, a thing that people would just assume they can do, and I feel like that becomes more frustrating than allowing them to do the thing. So let's do JSON.add. I need to do better at typing while I talk because I gesture a lot with my hands, which means that my hands aren't on the keyboard. So item type, and then item type, toString, JSON.add. There's a problem with the rendering in my game because NPC is rendering longer than my buildings and items. What do you mean by it's rendering longer? Oh, like it's taking longer to render? Or it's like getting depth buffering issues where it's not clearing and you're getting like a weird lagging effect. And then we have is light source. Let's see. Item type. It's going to be item light. Go ahead and copy these over. equip is equipped. JSON.add. Just paste. And last one is item is lit. And item lit. Don't know why I don't have those right next to each other. And then the last one is going to be JSON.add. Right. We're just going to copy this for now. And then make it that. Then we go over to session utility. Item. Oh, interesting. Oh, that's probably what the state was for. I was wondering why I had that field. Because I never used it for anything. So like, if I look at it, yeah, I never use it. Oh, that's the inventory. I want to go back to. Oh, and also I want to go to interactive object utility. Go to definition. So I'm going to go ahead and say public const string item unique ID. Have you ever considered doing YouTube? What do you mean, like exporting this stuff to YouTube? I do that. It gets sent over to Sleepy Owl Software's YouTube page. Or are you talking like just general streaming and stuff? Anyway, item unique. Copy that. Move this up here. Paste that. Okay. So if we have a unique value, I'm just going to say return nothing if the value is null. Then I'm going to say unique ID dot is null or empty. If so, then we will say unique ID equals string.format that else unique ID. Okay. And this is going to be 0, 1, I think is what I'm going to do. And that is going to be item ID mixed with I can use the vector coordinates because you can't have two items dropped in the same general area. It'll spread them out, and it's incredibly unlikely that you'll be able to manually position them so close that they overlap that much. So, ha 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 ha, ha. Yes. Okay. Yes, that works. And if that's the case, do I even? We'll let it go. So this is going to be item cache transform. Really? Did I not do cache transform? Huh. Apparently I didn't. Transform.position. Okay. Well, there we go. Item coordinate. Right. Well, that should take care of it, I think. No, that's actually not good enough, because that will be set to 0 for most of this. Do I know any other good devs on Twitch? William Chair is good. I honestly don't get a lot of time to watch Twitch as much as I would like to. There are a lot of cool devs on here. I just can't recommend any off the top of my head. But I don't know, Garrett, do you know? Any off the top of your head? Ryan Clark. Um, using a week and a half just for texturing an NPC barbarian. Yeah, barbarians are known for taking a long time to texture. Oh right, his dev talk streams. Those are really cool. I can never remember his name. I really should learn it. Um, so okay, let me go back here. The problem was that I needed to find. Right. Right. Okay. Oh. Oh my god. All that effort. All that effort, and I didn't even need to do it. Yeah, I went crazy because I had to make sure that I was getting a unique item, which I already had the components of because I saved out the position data, and that would give me a unique ID. Ah, that, of course. I didn't think it through, but um, hmm. Well, go figure. Let's see. Then I don't even need that unique ID anymore. That kind of burns me up, considering that I went through the effort of doing it. But hey, on the bright side, we figured out that I didn't have a 2JSON thing in here, so that was a huge oversight on my part. And now we fixed it. Hooray! And I don't remember if. Real quick, let me go to definition here. Not to JSON, we want from JSON. Oh, I guess I can just look at that here. Right. So I want to say JSON object, item JSON equals new JSON object. Put this stuff all in there. JSON.add. Go ahead and do that. Then item JSON. So at the very least, we got item QJSON sections actually working properly. That could actually explain a lot of problems I was having before too. When is the game out? You mean Text Quest? I wanted to get it done by May. That's not going to happen, just because there's a lot of stuff still left to do. So hopefully, I'll be able to get it done by the end of the year. And I honestly don't know if that's even possible. That might be a bit of a stretch. So it might end up getting bumped to 2017. This would go a lot faster if I could work on it full time, but because I can really only work on it, on nights, um, it slows things down a lot. I just can't. I can't. Physically, there's not enough time for me to do it. Um, so it's hard to say, but end of 2016, probably start of 2017 is the new sort of target date. Um, so let's see. From JSON, got all that stuff. Okay, so that should all work now. Let's go back to session. And let's see. We do not even need the chord level because chord JSON is on a per level basis anyway. That cannot be a different thing. I don't even know if I need position and rotation, honestly. I yeah, I don't think I need any of that. It doesn't hurt to compare it, I suppose, but um, yeah, and there's a lot of extra features that I have to get in there before I release it anyway. So I still have like custom quest creation and stuff like that I need to get in there to let people make their own text adventures. And then post launch, if the game gets even a modicum amount of success, then I'll be working on 3D text adventure stuff to allow people to make their own like 3D levels. Um, but we'll see how that all goes because that's a post launch thing. So all this stuff should basically end up being correct. Um, so we have, let's see, item chord values, which are a array. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and just set this. Get rid of that. So now we have this local variable that we set whenever we load a level. Let's see. And we're doing that up here too. Yep. That is good. And I basically can actually just cut out that entire array thing. So we can paste that there. We'll just be modifying things directly. And I might end up having to no, I don't need the temp stuff. I'm not worried about that because we just parse that stuff in. I was worried that I was going to have to re-add the temp JSON objects. I'm like, wait, no, don't have to do that because I'm just going to be loading in the most recent save file, and that'll reset everything anyway. So, not worried about that. Get container contents. Right. Okay, I'm not going to worry about that for now. Add content container. I'm not going to worry about the container stuff currently. I'm just going to move on. We'll come back to that in a second. Booleans, numbers, strings, that's all good. More excited than the Division. I don't know. I'm curious about the Division, but I watched a couple of videos on it, and a lot of people brought up the point that enemies are really bullet spongy, which in a Tom Clancy game is really bizarre. But then you have stuff like multiple headshots on a single enemy won't kill them, and that's just I hate that. I really hate games like that where it's trying to be realistic, right down to like items and equipment, and then your enemies just don't die. They just arbitrarily are like, no, don't get to kill me in one shot, even though it logistically makes sense. So anyway, so this is saving my session. All this stuff's fine, and let's see. Let's come back here. We'll go ahead and get rid of this. Call it clear temp. That should get rid of that error. See if we get any more. UB is using the Tom Clancy name for some un-Clancy stuff, yeah. Well, and they've been doing that for a while, to be fair. I mean, when you had, what was it? There was no, there's a Rainbow Six after the Las Vegas one, wasn't there? But before the new one, and that one was like completely, like not like really realistic, which is what Tom Clancy shooters are known for, is their realism. Where like you get shot in the leg and you'll still die, and you can take like 2 bullets if that. Um, so and it's probably just gonna get even worse because Tom Clancy's dead. Which he died younger than I was expected. He was like late 60s, early 70s, something like that. You know, not a young guy, but he was probably maybe had another decade, although apparently not. And that's just going to make things even more jarring, I think. That's probably where a lot of this Division like weird RPG thing came from, was Tom Clancy wasn't around to be like, no, don't do that. Anyway, so this is saving everything. Um, for each, right? We're gonna have to do this basically. Rules. Don't need to worry about that. Bool values keys to list string and bool keys. I'm just gonna say bools dot add s, then bool values. Oh, stop it. S. So short and sweet, really easy to save this stuff out. And then at the end of this, I think I add everything, correct? Yep, good. So numbers are going to be the exact same. Numbers, number keys equals number values. Paste that. Numbers, add, number values s. That's all fine. People say that they're bullet spongy, which is true, but it does not affect the gameplay that much. Well, maybe, but it's more of a general feel thing. Because like even in non-realistic games, you've been sort of trained to expect like a headshot should do stupid amounts of damage to the points where if you get like one or two, things will just die. So it's very odd that in a Tom Clancy game that's not the case. Let's do this. Strings, string keys. I'm going to have string values. Put that in there. Put that. Strings. And that should be getting rid of all of this stuff. Now we're on our inventory, which I'm already adding, I believe. So I can get rid of that, I think. I think I'll keep it just for safety reasons. Containers and coordinates are something that also need to be saved out. Let's load this back up, make sure there's no errors. Yeah, Ghost Recon, it's hard for me to remember because I didn't play it, but I do remember people talking about it, and I didn't think that it was that realistic. Because, you know, the whole sci-fi thing. But, well, I guess not sci-fi, but near future thing. Yeah, and I think that's true too. They were trying to compete with Battlefield and Call of Duty, and the Tom Clancy series, they're like Rainbow Six just isn't meant for that. It's a niche thing by definition because it's so serious. That was its appeal, is that it was so realistic. Um, yeah, so everything was apples. Yeah, see that was the problem. Is like I have to try and account for uniqueness, which I think we solved that by having the the position be a factor when looking for it and saving it out. So that helps. That helps a lot. Um, although when loading it back in, it might not have that information, which would be problematic. Um, well, let's see. Let's look at session. Right, because we haven't figured out a good way to save this yet. That's fair enough. Right, no. This is all fine because it's all JSON. It's a JSON blob. That's all we need. We have the item ID and then the item position. That's all we need from these, basically. Cool. So we were right. In the beta, I didn't kill enemies that much. Just walked around and admired the graphics. Yeah, I heard that it looks really nice. And from what I saw, it looked really nice. And apparently, the beta they just stripped out a lot of features so that you wouldn't, I guess, be able to do much, which is a shame. But um, it's a beta, so you can't really complain, I suppose. Um, okay, so I think this is gonna be fun. We're gonna go to our intro, Castle Quarters. We're just gonna play and see what errors I get. Because I'm willing to bet I'll get at least one or two. There we go. Probably like 9. Oh, what the substance manager? That was the problem? Settings. How is this a problem? Oh, and also, ooh, I'll need to do that. Anyway, okay. Hmm. Um, so we should have texture resolution right there, 11. But that returned null? What? That makes no sense. What was the instance? Oh, dang it. That's. Right, right. Okay, we're going to have to fix that. I cannot have to start from the splash fade every single time. Start. We'll do a new game. Let's go in normal. Do right-handed. Yellow, even though I hate yellow. Yes. Wow, already got a null reference. What even is that? Object reference not set to an instance text quest session load inventory. Oh goody. Loading inventory stuff. Oh, right, we didn't do anything with the loading inventory. Fun. We probably need to do that, don't we? Yeah. So that's a problematic thing. Okay. So let's see. Session set info. Blah 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 blah. Loading the session. Basically want this. And for now, we will also. Yeah. So going up here to clear session, we go to definition. We are going to reset all of this stuff too. This is always fun. Go ahead and get rid of these. Paste these in. Alright. And we're going to get rid of all of this. Get set to new values. Bam. Nice. Sweet. Get rid of the per level stuff. Get rid of this. Get rid of this. Alright. Now, we go all the way back down here. I love save systems. They're so much fun. Okay, so now we're ready to go. Wish there were cars or bikes in the game. Ha! That'd be really funny to have like a bike by. So you're just wandering down the streets in the sky and a little bike comes by and shoots you with an Uzi. That'd be very Saints Row-esque. So I'm going to make a game called Walking Simulator where you walk around and get XP for unlocking shoes and walking sticks. Make that your jaded DLC, like a different walking stick skin or something like that. And hello, Palafor. Welcome to the TextQuest Dev stream. Currently doing save session stuff. Yep, high-end Windows DirectX 12. Yep. You need to have like a really, really amazing like cinematic trailer with a lot of like bombs and all that stuff, and then just have walking as much as possible with like epic music, sweeping epic soundtracks and all that. It's like Surgeon Simulator, yeah. Quap controls. Make that a mode. Quap mode. Oh man. Anyway, let's see. So that would be my cat wanting attention. Yes, I see you, cat. And now, oh wow, load session. It's still an XML document. JSON object. Wow, that's bad. Or should it be? Let me see where I find all the references to this. Game overview. Let me see. Okay. Right. So close that because that's not even a thing anymore. I should probably actually just make this string save file and say JSON object, JSON equals file manager dot load or read file. It's going to be a read encrypted file. Save file. And then we're going to have JSON parser dot parse. Bam. And for the purposes of this section, we're just going to copy this, put it down here. We're going to say read file, and then I'm going to get rid of that. We'll go back to encrypting once we know it works. That would be very interesting. You could actually try to like get brand deals in there, so you have like a Jedi walking simulator, which would be even more hilarious because then you could just say you're meditating as a Jedi. Star Wars: Force Awakens. Hate that movie. Really, really hate that movie. Okay, so for this fun stuff, we're gonna have a bunch of stuff up here actually. JSON object session equals JSON dot get object. Let's see. Need all this stuff. I'm just gonna copy this. Get rid of these. Oops. All right. I'm going to say JSON object bools equals that. Cut and paste in front of everything so it's faster. We'll rename them. Numbers, strings, levels, and then inventory. And then just get object. Nice. Oh, nice. Congratulations, Garrett. When's he doing that? Is that happening this week or is that happening later on. I will do my best to tune in because I always try to catch those streams, and it's hard because he doesn't always stream at the best time for me. Let's see. So we're getting all of our JSON sections set up, and now. Okay. So at the very end here, we have to go through and do all of this stuff again, where we basically just add. Oh, actually, no, we don't need to do that. We can just straight up say save JSON equals JSON. That's nice. Anyway, so next we're going to have. How are we going to do this? For each JSON value JV in session. See, that's. Man. I don't think I have the values. Name value pairs. Not great. So I have names and values. Okay, so I do have values. That's good. Actually, you know what I can probably do is list JSON value session keys equals session dot names. Oh, good. I automatically made it a string. Good for me. I was worried for a second there. String session names, and then downloaded the coolest PC app yesterday. It's called You Name It, I Eat It. It's a dragon that you. Ha! Interesting. That sort of sounds like the old. It sounds like a couple things. It reminds me of the Mac, but like the Mac application that they had a long time ago, where you could like tilt your Mac, and it would cause your icons and stuff to fall, basically. And then it also reminds me of the Zerg Rush on Google, where Zerglings or little O's will come down in a Zerg Rush and start destroying stuff. He said he might be out of town. Well, hopefully he'll be in. If not, is he just going to stream it the following week? I assume. Which, by the way, Garrett, how's that going? I haven't checked on it since I voted. Has it been greenlit, or are you getting like good numbers? I think I might have asked you that before. I think I did, but it's always good to check, because it's been a while. Let's see. So now I'm going to say for each string ID or name in session names, session values dot of s no. Sorry, name equals session dot get string. Yes, I see you, cat. Get string value name. All right. That should all be fine. And then to be safe, I'm going to go ahead and have an empty value for my default. Except it's in session, so it should never have a default value. So I'm going to do that just so I can catch any errors. So this is our session stuff. Then we're going to load our bools. Then we're going to load our numbers. Then we're going to load our strings. And then once I get around to it, inventory, levels. That should be everything. Steam Greenlight is stagnant. Yeah. I mean, it's a crapshoot with that thing. You don't know what works, what doesn't work, what it takes to get greenlit. They don't tell you. They don't tell you you need X amounts of votes. It's everyone's guessing, trying to figure it out. And I feel you on the not marketing. I'm terrible at marketing. I'm got to get off my ass and just send a bunch of emails to people and be like, "So I'm making a game," but it's just not the type of person that I am. I'd much rather show people the game once it's done, but obviously you can't do that. So bool values equals bools. Oh. Ah. Wait, what? Oh, right. It's going to be get bool value. All right. Copy this. Go under numbers. Number names equals numbers dot names. Number values. Get float value. You can go ahead and link your YouTube stuff if you want, 18 Mark. I don't mind. Assuming that Twitch doesn't automatically curate that, I don't care. Just so that once this stream gets archived, people can see the actual thing. And yeah, hiring people to do marketing, it costs money. I don't have money. I wish I did, but I do not. String names. String values. Strings. Well, at least, yeah, seems like everyone's getting their game done. I'm sure it's a nice feeling. One day I will know. Let's see, strings.names. Okay, so we should be getting the basics all loaded in. But now we need to load our inventory. And that's going to be fun. Am I saving it out yet? I am. Good. Good. So, this is going to be fun. Copy it from up here. Right. So item I and inventory contents. If we can't do it that way, we're reverse doing it. So it's actually going to be for each JSON object item in inventory dot object. Inventory needs to be a JSON array. Object values. And then I'm going to say, let's see. Item. Oh, no, it's going to be. Okay. We're going to say item. No, that's the coordinates. Okay. So, item ID. Item ID equals item dot get string value interactive object utility dot item, not item check, ID dot to enum item ID if item ID, just come on, item ID does not equal item ID dot none. Keep doing that. Item ID dot none. Then we will say, it's gonna be fun. Oh, you know what? I don't need to do that. This all gets done down here in load inventory. Womp womp. Don't need that. Instead, I just need to say inventory values equals inventory. It is that simple. Ah, crud. Can never be that simple, can it? Alright, let me figure this out. Final references. Inventory value equals new list item. For each item in inventory values. Okay. Well, that works too, I suppose. So in that case, I would basically just be loading that stuff in. Okay. We'll go ahead and do that anyway. Yeah. So I'm basically going to just bump this. Okay. Inventory. So we can get rid of that. I got you. I got you. And right, this is going to be a JSON object again. Object. Except, if I remember correctly, my inventory is an array, right? So this does need to be an array. JSON array, get array. Moving down here, we're going to say JSON array. As someone in real life that might be interested in reviewing a game, or the game I'm making. Huh. Well, I'll have to check them out then. The other problem is I'm trying to get this into like a good working state before I can send out a nice demo again, because the old demo is so, it's functional, but it's so outdated artistically and mechanically that it's a little more than a proof of concept at this point. So I need to update stuff before I can really start talking to people again. Anyway, Um, yes, my cat wants attention. Yes, I hear you. So great. How do I want to do this? Wow, that's a lot of subs. Huh. Cat like coding, yeah. Well, if I had a webcam, actually, probably about half of my streams, you would see a cat on my shoulders because she likes to just jump up and lie down across my shoulders while I work. Don't know why she does it, but she does. And, in the winter, it's not that bad because it keeps things warm. Um, so, right. Okay, then I'm not going to worry about this. So instead of save JSON, I'm just going to say get array. Oh. Oh. Ah. Okay. I think I know. Da, 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 da. Cool. So I'm just going to go ahead and this. Set that to be just equal to JSON. And that should fix all the problems with that. Cool. So let's see. We can get rid of session, bools, int strings. Get rid of all of that stuff. Don't need it. Inventory is something that I will also not need because I'm just parsing that as an actual array, which is nice, so I can get rid of that. Coordinates, all this stuff, get rid of this. And get rid of that. Okay, let's go ahead and go back here, let it load up. Oh, we got errors. Right. Right. Crap. Oh dear. Hmm. Okay. Clear temp is not quite what I had in mind. I think I can just do that then, and it should be fine. Yeah, because all those values are, yeah, that should be fine. Okay, we'll let that go. Oh good, we're going to start getting into these stupid things. So all I got to do here is simply put that. Get rid of that. I'll get rid of that error. Now I need a drink. I've been talking for 2 hours and 15 minutes. Wait. Let's see. Save file. Save path. Huh. That's weird. Why would I do that? So I like save a game before I load it? That's super weird. Oh no, it's because I had to make it into an XML document. That's right. So I can just get rid of all of that and change this to file manager dot read file. And again, we're gonna have to say double that read encrypted file. that backwards. Let that load in. Do you distribute? Oh, right. I think I've looked at this before, the do distribute stuff. And I just haven't gotten around to actually testing it. Yeah, I'll have to take another look at it. Let's see. Get more fun stuff. Get rid of all these things. Okay. I love getting like the sequential errors because it only loads errors from one file at a time. That's promising. So we got rid of most of those. I think I have some updates to... Nope, that's all my stuff. Look at that. Alright, so now that we're back to where we want to go back to session. And this is probably just not going to sit well, but let's see what happens. And item blah 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 for each item in item array. And at the very end, we're going to say inventory values dot add item. Cool. So now if we load, let's see what happens when we get to the actual level. See if we get any more errors. I assume we will. Yeah, and keys are going to be a whole other thing when I actually get that far along. Hopefully by then I'll have the beta stuff ready, and then I'll just be able to go off of that. But that's so far away that I can't even think about it well enough. New game, me, yes, normal, right. Oh, T, right, orange. Of course I'm hero. And yes, we'll start. Oh, good, we got another null reference. What do we get? Where do we go? Wow, like right back to the beginning. Really? Really? Is there nothing there? Okay, fine. So we're gonna debug.log inventory JSON or inventory array .to formatted string. See what happens. Well, as they say, all press is good press, no matter how small. And of course, it's always nice to work with, people on your same level, basically. So it's good for small indies to work with small YouTube channels, I think. Yes. Good. Still got a null reference. So inventory array is null? Okay. Alright, that's fine. I guess... that's true. Okay, that makes sense. If... and we're just going to say if JSON equals null, return. Right. So if there's no array in the default file, then there's no reason to try and parse it because it'll just break things. So So let's go to start, new game. Oh, right. Yellow, yes, yes. Loading our textures. Oh yeah, and I also thought of another thing for minigame activities during loading, which was fill in the blank. And I feel like I shot that down when I first started. Um, but it's different enough that it might be worthwhile, because then you get rewarded for exploring the game. Wow! Incorrect tag. I don't even know what that means. I have never seen that error before in my life. And that is... Oh! I have no idea what that means. Incorrect tag. I mean, it's just so descriptive. I mean, that literally could be only one thing. There's no way it could be multiple things whatsoever. Okay. Right. So, good God. Incorrect tag. Well, okay. Um, that's really funny. Incorrect tag. Yeah, I've not seen incorrect tag before. So, fun times with Google. See what happens. You're trying to call, set, or find a tag that doesn't exist in your project. What? Why didn't that crop up before? That doesn't make sense. Um, Oy. Collision. What's wrong with the script? Okay, that's probably not going to find me anything. Let's get rid of error. See what incorrect tag I can find. Okay, well, let's try playing again. Maybe it was just like a one-time thing. Yeah, there's no call stack or anything. It's just like, hey, you got an error. That's like... let's continue. Good, good. We have a null reference. Oh, what the hell? I'm going to say debug.log json.toFormatted string. So I should at least get whatever from that. Let's go to text request settings, saves. Looks like autosave 3 was the last one edited. So here's our session stuff. That seems correct. Our time, our name, our ID. Difficulty, right-handed, favorite color. Gives us the level, spawn, all that stuff's correct. Bools, all that stuff got set, and then we have a null one for some reason, which I need to figure out why it's doing those. No ints, no strings, don't have anything for levels or inventory. That makes sense for inventory. You wouldn't have anything in the inventory yet. So this seems like it's correct. I guess let's try... Oh dear, Unity's lagging. Huh. Well, hello Unity. Not wanting to do much of anything. Are you crashing? It's it's frozen, but it's not responding. Um, hmm. Always fun. Well, let's close it, and then we'll get the not responding thing, I'm sure. Control Alt Delete. Task Manager. Yeah, not responding. Good, good, good. else? And now it is responding? See, it says it's responding here, and then here it says it's not responding. Okay. And, huh. Yes, cat, I see you. Yes, I know. She's mad because she doesn't know what this is doing either. Well, fine, I'll just end task. I don't like forcing Unity to quit like that, but... So, I'll try this again and see what happens. Does it mean like I didn't just like break Unity somehow? Re-imported for target platform. Never changed the target platform. Okay, goody. Re-importing. Fortunately, I don't have too many things. Actually, given this how long the project's been in development, I've managed to keep a lot of large files out of it. Most of the large files are from asset store packages like Sector, which are just, you know, giant packages. The actual game files themselves are mostly scripts. And everything's a substance texture, which means that my textures are like 7 kilobytes. So let's just hit play. I'm going to see what happens. Right, it's not a good test in the canyon because I think everything's disabled. Oy. Let's see. Let's go to scenes. Intro. Let's go to the castle quarters. I'm just going to play the scene directly. See what happens. We might get another error, but that would... Hey. Yeah. That's the... Yep, Substance Manager. So we're going to cheat, pull in global, and then we're just going to pop in. Hello. Well, we didn't get any errors, which is good. But we also didn't really... Yes, cat, I see you. I hope that you guys can't hear her purring, because she's on my shoulders again, and I don't know how good my mic is. Oh, you're still on about that? Just because my email was busted and still is busted. I need to fix that so bad. Yeah. Just on the pile of things that's like, hey, it's important for the business side, but the game development side's like, it's not that important, though. Gotta get on that. Okay, so let's just go ahead and go to our intro then, or our splash fade. We'll load in from the very beginning, see what happens. Because it's the actual session loading that I'm worried about. So start, hit continue, let's hit play. It's empty. That doesn't make sense. So it should be index is 2. That could be a problem. Crap, I also don't know if I'm going to save this. I don't remember if I set it up to increment or not. Start, continue. Alright, that's also null. So that doesn't seem to be changing anything, which is annoying. Right. Well, let's see where this comes from. Let's go ahead and say save file plus new line. So I'll know the pathing to the file as well. Make sure that it's loading the correct one. Well, but are you hosting your website on a static Amazon like S3 thing though? Because that's what I'm doing, and I think that's what because to do that you have to point your DNS over there, and I think that's what broke my email stuff. So that's kind of frustrating, but and no, I haven't played The Witness yet. Uh, I need to. I don't really want to. I have my gut feeling again that I won't like it. But it's a first-person adventure style game, and I should, figure out if people really like that. Yeah, web hosting is on Amazon, and I feel like is Weebly one of the options that Google gives you by default? Because if that's the case, then um, um, I don't know. It's a weird thing. So, all right, let's play again. Yeah, I've heard that the puzzles are really, really hard. Um, hit continue. Stop playing. Okay. What the heck? It's not even sending the right thing? Hold on. That's why. Continue save file. Like it's returning the index, which is just completely wrong. Oh. Okay, I know why. I know why. Go to definition. Save files. Go to definition. We basically don't want to add it. Oh, crap. Cat, why are you pushing in an awkward shoulder spot? Yeah, see, but that's the thing is, you have it. Those are basically DNS servers that are that Google is pointing to, and to use Amazon, not Weebly, I have to point the DNS servers somewhere other than Google, and that's why the custom email stuff doesn't work because it's no longer pointing at Google's DNS. Um, so I need to figure out a way to get Amazon to do that, or in more realistic terms, I just need to switch over to using like Squarespace, and it's just this whole list of things that I haven't done. I'm gonna go ahead and for each. I don't like doing this. For int I equals files dot count. Oh, that is also a problem, isn't it? TQS. That will fix it. That's all I needed to do. But yeah, it's because of a DNS thing, and it's just, good God, hosting sites is a nightmare. Because I wanted to do source control, like I wanted to have the control over the code for the web pages, and I couldn't get that very easily with just default stuff. And I need to take the time to actually set up a proper Squarespace page, and I just haven't. Oh, good, we're still at null references. But now we're actually loading things, which is nice. We are still. Are you kidding me? Oh. I could pay you to do HTML, CSS, JS again. Well, the thing is, I can do all of those myself, but it's time consuming. Um, and I don't have the time. It's If only there were like 3 of me. I could have one be a web development, social media outreach thing, one person doing the actual development, and then one person to laze around and do nothing and then claim to be a producer. Um, live in the dream. So we're actually getting things to load in, which is nice. Always a good thing. I'm going to go ahead and go to session and say, let's see, set session string. I'm just going to say if ID not equal null. I'm tired of the like null object being there. You can see it right there in bools. So we need to fix that. And say if ID does not equal null, or actually I should say if not ID dot is null or empty. And then same thing for session. Is null or empty. And if not, all that stuff. Cool. I don't know how Casey Inventory does streaming, website, create, hand make. Yeah. Yeah, it's crazy. Well, I honestly don't know. I do not know. I feel like a lot of this would be more manageable if it was my full-time job. Like if I didn't have graduate work on top of paying work on top of everything. Because then I would have like 10 more hours a day to actually do stuff. And then I could very easily just like say, this 3 hours, these 3 hours are for web development. These 3 hours are for, uh, producing. So contacting people, getting in touch, making sure everything's going all right. And then I have spare time after that to do whatever I need. Because 10 hours is a huge chunk of your day. So just having like 6 to 8 hours a day at most to work on the game is really, really hard. Because then it means like I get 5 hours of dev time, and then I have 3 hours left at most to try and do web dev, try and contact people, try and send out emails, and just do all this stuff. And just it can't happen. It can't. It's physically impossible. Okay, so go ahead and go to this. Open this up. Don't need that. Go ahead and get rid of. Let's see. Open with. I'm going to go ahead and say Notepad++. Might as well. Can't imagine doing this and school and work. Yeah, it's not easy. Especially when the school is breathing down your neck to finish it, and then they still demand like way more work on you. But that's how it goes, I suppose. So I'm gonna go ahead and get rid of this extra bit, and then I'm gonna close that. See if it spawns back in. Continue. Freaking really? Okay, bool didn't come back at least. So we're having problems with get JSON object. Okay, well, where's this error coming in? Session 532. I hate how large this file is. 532. Okay. So it's not finding anything. All right. Session. Give me a second here. We have session right here. And then I want to say get value. Just all the string values in there. Okay. We're going to debug.log name plus session dot get string name equals null. And then up here, I'm going to go ahead and debug session dot deformatted string. Other guy? What other guy? There is no other guy. As far as I know. Play through again. Start. Continue. Okay, we got a null reference. Yeah. Are you serious? Let's try that again. No, yeah, it's just me. It's I'm the only one working on it. Because 2.5 years ago, I'm like, hey, what if we had a text-based adventure where everything was text? And then the thought process was, oh, that would require so little art, we wouldn't need artists. And then everyone left, and it was just me. Took like a week for everyone to just leave. Oh well. Continue. Okay. So ID is null? That's not right, you friggin' liar. Oh, dang it. It's because... Crap. Okay, I know why. Everything has to be a string here. I can't... Jesus. That's fine. So everything in session has to be a string, basically. So for now, I'm going to cheat and just put these quotes in manually. Save that. Close it. I go back here. And then in... Let's see. That could just be because of how it was done. Yeah, okay. So that could be because that was an old file being loaded. I probably should have just deleted everything and then redone it, or redid it, but we'll see. Ugh. Start. New game. Oh wait, no. Back. Continue. Hooray! Ah, I think we got it. Let's see what happens. Oh, loading textures. Minigames help, I think. I just wish I could optimize that loading somehow. Entirely dependent on your computer, though. So I feel like people with, toasters are going to have a hard time. Well, that seems to have worked. I'm going Go ahead and pause. Do we have any? We have no errors. Yes! I do not know what that is. Where did that come from? Oh, that's the inventory. Oh. Oh, that's fine, but there's nothing in it. Yes. Yosh. Got everything. Okay. Yeah, the $100 for Greenlight. I mean, it sounds like a bad deal at first, but then you realize that originally they didn't have that, and everyone was just like, there's thousands of games going up every day, and it was just all terrible to sift through. So, the $100 is the price we all have to pay because the Human Collective is terrible. um, and like I said before, it's a crapshoot since you don't know what's the criteria to get greenlit. Um, anyway, um, I think that getting all of the errors fixed, being able to load in and parse the information and do all that is a very, very good chunk for tonight. Just for the stream because it's been almost 3 hours. So I still have a lot more that I'm going to be doing post stream, obviously. Hopefully I'll be able to get this all sorted out by tonight. Probably not going to happen just because it's me. So hopefully I'll be able to get it done before the end of the weekend. And we will. I might do a dev stream on Saturday. I need to update my schedule and say like impromptu stuff going on. But we'll see what happens. Itch.io looks like an interesting platform. Yeah, Itch.io is actually a pretty good thing to launch games on for indies. Because it's kind of like Steam in website format and a little more loose. So there's a lot more content on there, a lot of free stuff. It's generally a good place to get to post at least demos for your game. A lot of people do that. I probably need to do that at some point. Anyway, so I think that's gonna do it for me tonight. I am hungry. I haven't eaten in a long time. And yeah, so a lot of save stuff for me tonight and tomorrow and Saturday and Sunday. But we got it all loading up from the very start of the game to the first in-game level, which is good. That's a very good sign. No errors, no nothing, just all of the debugs that we put in there. So that's going to do it for me, as always. It's great to see all of you. Both Garrett and Mark. It's good to see you guys. Always enjoy talking things through with you. Always happy to have you. As always, thank you all very much for watching.